Okay, great. So I hope you can see my screen now. Yeah, thank you. So this is the framework, and if you have any doubts on the framework, you can post them now, but we will be walking through each one of those steps. So first step is to pick a problem or pick a software that I'm already using, right? So I've been using this Pomodoro timer for all my Pomodoro uh, requirements. So I run 1 hour Pomodoros followed by a 15-minute break. So every time I start my work, I run a 1 hour Pomodoro, and then once I am done with that, I'll take a short break, and then long break again. It's 15 minutes. So you do two 1 hour Pomodoros followed by a break. Okay, I don't often use this, but when I'm coding, I do use this. Okay, so this is the software I'm going to open source project that I'm going to contribute to today. So on using this for quite a while, and there is this stats page where it will give you the stats of how many pomodoros you have done every day, right? So this is the usage of it. There is only pretty much two windows that we'll be interacting with. One is the timer, another is the stats. And the problem, so that is the project that we are talking about, and it is open source. So the code is here, tomato clock, and it has license which allows you to modify or edit the code and reuse it, right? So you can use this project, make changes to it. So that is figured out. Next thing that we'll be using is, like, I started as a user. Next, we have to find faults, be a critic, right? So when I go to the stats page, oftentimes it gives me the number of pomodoros I've done in a day, total number of pomodoros I've done in a day, not the number of hours I have spent on it. So that is something I need to know. So there is no way to know that right now. So that is the piece that we are going to contribute to it. So like I said, I raised an issue for the same, and I don't think this project is maintained anymore. So it's kind of there. So we don't need to wait for an approval. I asked for an stats enhancement where you have to track time over the count. So that is the problem that we are going to fix today, right? And so here they have preferences to set how many minutes your Pomodoro is, how many short breaks you're going to take, how many long breaks you're going to take. And next is, I need a cloned version of this project. I think I've forked it, or maybe not. So you usually, when you're contributing to open source project, you have to fork it and then you have to clone it. So I have my cloned version here. So I've already cloned that repository. If you don't know how to clone a repository, you have to have Git in your machine, and then, okay, I'm going to close this. You have to have Git in your machine, and then you go here and then do a Git clone. Okay, so Git clone, and then that will clone you the repository and give you where I am right now. Okay, so that is figured out, and I have opened the code in my favorite code editor, VS Code. So this is the basic setup. Next thing we need to know is, just understand what the software is. Where is the starting point of the software? Uh, Luckily for us, this is not a big project, but if it's a big project, you always have to know what the starting point is, right? So a good way to find that is to find out all these keywords that they use in your UI, if there is a UI, or if you're using a Python function of sort, do the search on the function. Okay, so here they primarily use something like tomatoes, short breaks, long breaks, and then the page is called stats, right? So let's see if there is a stats page, or there is something of sorts of stats. Okay, there are a lot of stats right there, right? And there is a page called stats.js as such. Great. So the whole project search, right? Command Shift F, that comes really handy when you're doing an open source contribution, because the starting point is always few searches away. So there is a stats.js file, so that's comforting. And then if you want to actually start from the beginning of the whole world, there should be a manifest.js, because this is a plugin. So manifest.js has your entry point to a lot of things. So it will have something called as a background.js. This ideology comes from because I have done a couple of plugins, so there should be a background.js file. So before all that, when you're doing an open source contribution, you have to make sure that the project is actually contributable. And how would you know that is from the README file. It has to give you some amount of knowledge about how do you go about contributing to it. So if you look here, they have a section for development, right? So without this, you won't know how to install your project, how to run it, and all that. So if you're uh, using Firefox, it's npm watch Firefox. If you're using any other thing, it's npm run watch. So if not, if there is no section, then there is no point in contributing to this open source, because they don't literally want you to do that. So to run this project, you clone it and do an npm install, and then do an npm run watch Firefox. Because I'm using Firefox, I'm going to do that. So let's do this. So like they said, it will open a new Firefox instance and install the same plugin blankly in that particular browser. So let's open that browser. It should be somewhere here. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is a new instance of Firefox. It doesn't have anything in here. It doesn't have any history, just dynamically generated. So we would need this to go ahead. And next comes your, so we have the project running now. And then again, like I said, we have seen the manifest.json. That is the starting point. From there we can go to background.js. So background.js just install some, like import something called as a timer. Let's go to that file. So in timer, there are like bunch of functions: get timer, reset timer, set timer. So this is where all the timer functions get handled, I guess. So I think when I talk about timer, it's basically this: what happens when you say it's a short break, what happens when you say it's a long break, and all that, right? And okay, so when you start a timer, they're setting a timer and then doing something about it. Okay, so far so good. So there is a timer.js file, and we saw something called as a start.js. That is where we'll be working most of the time. So let's go there, and here it has a bunch of functions. Constructor, reset date, set stats. Okay, it's setting the stats, changing the dates. A lot of things are going on here. Where do we even start? Oh, okay, got document on ready. Okay, now we are kind of sure that this is the file that's directly contributing to our stats page. So this page directly comes from here because it has the date range, and all date range is set here this week. So next we need to find out where this data is coming from, right? It says tomatoes 8 and where this data is coming from. So let's see where it's loading the data from right now. So it's getting this text content stats.tomatoes. Okay, constructor. Okay. Let's see if there is something called as storage here. Okay, there's nothing called a storage over here. Get date range, and then what do they call this? Tomatoes. Okay, this dot tomatoes count. Okay, somewhere they're getting stats, and then they are set stats text. Okay. Okay, they're getting the states from somewhere. Filtered timeline. Let's see, filtered timeline. Okay, get filtered timeline. This is what gives you, so they call this a timeline, and then they get the data of this filter from this function. So again, get timeline is another function. So we are kind of backtracking and finding where the flow of control goes. Okay, I saw something called a storage over here. Okay, storage dot get key of timeline. Okay, so this is where the data is getting stored. This dot storage and this dot storage is browser dot storage dot local. Okay, cool. So we found this browser dot storage dot local, and then under the key timeline. So okay, that's good. So what we can do right now is uh, huh, storage. Okay, we need to do this again. Get filtered timeline. Okay, in timeline.js is this browser.storage.local.getOff timeline. So that will give us what's getting stored. So we need to understand what's getting stored right now. Browser.get of timeline. Okay, we need to do an await, and then we'll assign it to a variable. So I'm using the browser's console to get that object. Okay, there are quite a bit of properties over here. Let's see. Get raw timeline. Okay, let's see what it has for. Let's do x of 0. Interesting. X dot map of console.log of timeline alarm. Let's see what this stores. Interesting. What is x even now? Okay, you have to do another x of timeline. So that is where the data is getting stored. Interesting. X of await this, and then storage result of timeline. Storage key dot timeline. Correct. X dot keys. Okay, just a browser dot sync, maybe that. Dot get of timeline. Okay, this has the thing. So dot x of timeline will give you the array of all the all the pomodoros that I have done so far, which is great, right? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to copy this data and then put it in my other testing browser so that I'll have something to play around with. So the first step here is to get the data and see how it works. So it's storing all the data, but before moving on to that, I need to check out if they are storing the time. So yes, so they have something called as timeout, and that looks like they're storing milliseconds of the time that we spend. Okay, so how do I /100? That will convert that into seconds, and then 62 seconds, 62 minutes, another 60. That's not right. I've seen this milliseconds. Get milliseconds to minutes and seconds. So let's try this. Okay, parse int of milliseconds slash, so milliseconds is right now this 15,000, and then slash this, what this should give me, okay, it's about 25 minutes. So yes, they are storing how much time we spent on this. So let's copy this, and then okay, I'm going to copy X and then store it right away. Copy object, and then I'm going to open my random browser over here, and then I'm going to set the storage right here, because right now it doesn't have any data, so you would have a tough time experimenting with this. So to do that, again, I'm going to do storage search, and let's look at only the JavaScript files. Okay, so we did a storage.get, so this function should be storage.set. Okay, storage.set of storage key.settings, settings, yeah, there we go. So let's do this. X equal to the copied object. Okay, that's our copied object, and then browser dot set of X. Okay, so dot set of X. Let's also do an await, just to be sure. Okay, there we go. So we copied the data from there and we populated this here. So now we can test things out here. Okay, so now let's go back to our stats.js file. So this is where we are going to look at all the time that's involved, but just pause here for a moment to go back to the questions if you have any, and then we'll come back to the code part of it. Love your Twitter, thank you, but still the resolution is offset. Can we see the black bars on the x-axis? That's okay. Yes. Okay, so there are no questions. If you have any questions, you can post them here right now. Thank you for the compliment. I hope you're following through so far. So now we are going to jump ahead and dig a deeper on this code. So let's do that. So there's a constructor, there's a reset button. So it resets all the stats. And then there is export when you reset date, that is one. And add tomato data to chart. So this is where the chart, the graph that's get drawn, and then set stats text. Interesting. Okay. So set stats text. So this is where the tomato counter gets saved. So if you look here, the tomato counter part gets set here, excuse me. And there are like filters that filters you through, and then we're setting the stats over here. Okay. Okay, let's try this. In the constructor here, they are adding something called as a tomato count, right? Similarly, let's add something else which is called as tomatoes time, and in here I'm converting that to tomatoes time, and there should be a stats.html where this is coming from. So it's just naming convention, and if you think like a developer, you'd figure this out. So if you see here, there's a tomato count. So similarly, I'm going to copy this, and I am going to call this tomato timer, tomatoes time. So this is where it's going to calculate all the time and put it there. So that is taken care of. Now next, we have to see where this tomato count is getting set, and then backtrack to what we have to find out. So tomatoes count is getting set here, and it's getting stats.tomatoes. So let's do our tomatoes count.text content, which right now we'll set it to 0, and this should be restarted right now. Not sure why it's not getting restarted. Okay, I might have to redo this browser. Okay, that's one Firefox. Let's do Firefox. No, it's not. It's not loading it from my local. It's loading the main one. Package.json. The extension will reload if anything changes in my code, but it's not reloading. Why? Okay, so we added something called as a tomato time, and then now it's being set to 0. Since this is a new browser, we have to do that copy pasting thing again, but for now this is good. Next, what we would do is now we have did the text content. Now let's see where the stats is coming from, and then go there. So here it's calculating the stats. So let's see what this does. So it has a filtered set of timeline, and from there it's taking the case whether it's tomatoes or a short break or a long break. And if it's a tomato, it's just incrementing a count, and then it's adding that to a chart data, and then similarly it's incrementing the counter. So since it has only counter, it's incrementing that. So what we would want is a tomatoes time, which is again set to 0. Yeah, so tomatoes time alone is good enough for now. And stats.tomatoes time plus equal to so you can take the current tomatoes time and then add it to the data from your X, which is your timeline thingy. So let's go back to your browser. So here in X of 0, sorry, X of timeline of 0, in here there is a timeout object, and we are trying to only take this object and then add it together. So in your filtered timeline, you would be adding dot timeline, timeout, yeah, timeout. So dot timeout, and then so you're adding together the timeout, and then it gets added to the tomatoes time, tomatoes time. We would also, okay, so that gets stored here. Now let's go back to our stats.tomatoes time. Set stats text. Okay, here let's remove the 0 and add, what did I, tomatoes count time, tomatoes time. So this should set the added up time to the view here. Let's see. Let's refresh this, see if that works. Oh, it won't work because it doesn't have any data right now. So let's refresh this, and then we'll copy paste this again in there. Copy this object, and then stats, and then create this new data console, yeah, x is equal to tab, x equal to this, and then at this point I'm like browser.local .sync, okay, browser.storage.sync, await browser.storage.sync dot set of, okay, not here, not in this browser, in this browser, set of x, and then you reload this. So if you see, it's kind of giving me a number, not sure if this is right or not, but both are giving me 8 at this point. So let's see, am I adding, okay, stats.js, I'm adding the tomatoes time only, right? Okay, tomatoes time is 0, and then it's adding up the tomatoes timeout. Okay, so let's do a console.print here, and again print statements comes handy all the time. So not here, let's do this stats dot, okay, over here let's console.log stats dot, okay, let's print the whole stats and see what's there. Okay, something is getting printed, not sure what. I don't think this is stats.tomato. Okay, I'm setting the tomatoes count, and okay, this is not right. Tomatoes time to the tomatoes time. Yeah, so that was the problem. Now it should give me a different number. Let's see. Or interesting, it's not giving me a new number. Or it's not controlled, or it's not printing it either. Labels, tomatoes, it's printing a lot of things. Printing stats, comma console.log of okay, and then refresh this and then redo this. Okay, that doesn't look like it's printing at all. I'm not sure what's going wrong. Set stats text. Where is this called? Here. After calculating this. So let's do a console.log here just to be sure. Uh, stats dot tomatoes time. Tomatoes time, incrementing the tomatoes time, and then okay, so far so good. No luck. At least let's see if there is anything that's getting printed over here. Not at all. Looks like I'm having a very bad day. Okay, I did something definitely wrong, but it's not even consoling it, which is kind of a bummer. Is it having data somewhere? Okay, I need to read this again. Okay, one thing we can try doing is, delete this distribution and then redo this. I think that's the problem. Something is getting cached. Yeah, let's just delete this. Use verbose or open tooth. Okay. That is why we are not seeing this. Great. So this is my new browser. This is my stats. Inspect element. Console. Please print something. No, no luck at all. Okay, while I figure that out, if you have any questions here, let's do this. Screen is stable in text editor, not updating the current screen. Interesting. What do you mean by not updating the current screen? Okay, if you can see me fine, then we can proceed. Damn, I'm almost coding for an hour now, and I didn't even realize that. Okay, so worst things worst, I'll be deleting the folder. We can undo this. So Let's delete the dist and then restart, redo this. I wanted to build it again from the scratch so that so okay, deleting the dist was a problem. Let's go back to my readme file and see if there is anything here. The folder doesn't even have a dist file here. Okay, let's create a folder called dist and see. Right. This thing in doesn't even have a dist. So let's do the npm install again and see. Okay, this is going to take some time at least. Okay, let's see if there's something happened in my list. Nothing happened. Okay, so that was a bad idea then. Let's trash this folder and then wait. cd slash trash. How do I restore this? Okay, I think I lost my dist file. It's not even in my trash. Where is it now? This is a different dist file. Uh-oh. I'm screwed. npm build. Structs. Okay, it's creating a dist right now. Let's wait for that to happen while we go ahead and see what else we can do with this. Stats.text. We were here when we last did this. Stats.text. Yes. So, and then it will add up all your tomatoes, and then it will set up your tomatoes time over here, right? So apart from that, what we would also want to do is we would want to convert this milliseconds into minutes and seconds. Minutes and seconds, yes. So I'm going to import like minutes get minutes in milliseconds, get milliseconds in minutes. We'll import one of these files. Yeah, get milliseconds to minutes and seconds. This is the function. And import this. God. This function from dot slash utils. So I hope that goes to the right function. Okay, dot slash utils. Okay, that's the function, get milliseconds. And let's try this. What is the right way to? Okay, here they're importing a bunch of things, so let's add it to here and hope that works. So let's go back to our stats. Before setting this, I'm going to convert this into minutes and seconds and then set the text content. Now the building is done. Let's hope that there is a dist folder created. Okay, now I'll go back to run my watch Firefox, and yes, running the web extension from my dist folder now. So let's go back to my Firefox. Okay, newly created Firefox, not the old one. There should be two. Okay, here. And then let's go back to my stats. And the same old. You know what we should do? We should actually save this somewhere. There we go. It printed my print statements, printing the stats. Yay! Okay, so browser dot storage dot sync dot set of x, whereas x will mention what it is, and we'll have to await on this. Yes, you can obviously automate it to work a different way, but for now I'm going to just stick with this. And let's copy this x again, copy object, x is equal to, interesting. Hey, is my screen visible right now? Whoever is sticking around, thank you so much. And do you see my video well and fine now? Yep, I might have to stop the streaming and come back again a couple of more times. I think I'm back. Okay, stream health is good right now. Assignment of undeclared variable time data. In stats.js, there is something called as time data, which I didn't initialize. That's where this is going wrong. So on doing that, hmm. Okay, let's get this going and finish this. So right now, like you see, the minutes and seconds are displayed. We are going to go back. I hope you can see my screen better right now because I've made some changes. I'm going to copy this object again, and then I'm going to set this. And with this, we'll finish this video. And x is equal to the object. No, I think I copied the wrong thing. Copy object, and then x is equal to interesting. The object is here. Never mind. So x. Then we'll copy this object, and then we'll paste this object over here. And okay, never mind. Browser dot storage dot set sync dot set of x, await it, and then okay, there's some problem with this which I'll figure it out. I think I'm going to stop the streaming right now because it's way too late. And tomatoes time, so it's in milliseconds. So if I divide it by 1000, I'll get my seconds. Okay, and when I divide this by 60, I'll get my minutes. So that's should be my uh, algorithm over here. Let me just try that. This starts the tomatoes time, starts the tomatoes time by 1000 by 60. So uh, let's go back to stats. There we go. So that is 480. Yeah, totally 480. 480 minutes. Let's convert that into hour now. So another 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. So that's approximately 4.8 hours. So it's rebuilding right now. And okay, so this is possible because both my tomato number of tomatoes and the number of hours are same because it's 8 and 8, right? I do 1 hour time, 1 hour pomodoros, so that's why it's like that. If we do 1000 by 60 slash 60, then probably it's giving me 8 because I do 1 hour pomodoros, so it's both 8 and 8. That's good. So let's go back in time and see over the last month what has happened. So if you see here over 1 month time, I've done some quirks. So the time and the number of tomatoes are not cool. So similarly, we can go ahead and add this. Probably in the next video, we'll see how to do how to add this time to the charts. That's the next video. But so far we have added this single component. I pretty much don't want to see how much time I took the breaks. Okay, 2 breaks, 3 breaks are fine. This tomato time is alone important. So what I'm going to do is right now, I'm going to show you how to create a final PR before moving on, right? So at this point, I'm going to git checkout tomato time stats. Okay, checkout -b, and then I'm going to add all my changes, and then give a good commit message. Add tomato time attribute to the stats page, something good, and then push it. So once you push it, it gets pushed to your fork git branch, and then you can raise a pull request here. Most open source projects will have a certain template for you to give the pull request. So here you can type out your changes, and then you can give the pull request. For now, I'm not going to do it because I need to add and fine tune certain things, but this is how you finish it. So with this, in your 4 steps, we'll be fixing them and giving a pull request, but the eureka moment is up to the person who's handling the project. So if you have any questions, I can take in next 10 minutes. If not, thank you for sticking around. I know this has bombed so badly, but good for the first time. A lot of lessons learned. Probably I'll clean it up and create a new video on this and then upload it. If you have any questions, we can take it up now, or you can say bye to me. Okay. Uh,